right, here we are. So I'm really excited because this is, we're only about a week and a half away from the school board elections. We're all going to have to be voting from home and sending in our votes. And I have to say, I am really, excited to talk to and have people meet Julia Taylor, who is one of the candidates this year for school board. There are two positions, and she's hopefully gonna, we're real excited for her. And I have to say, like, you and I we had a connection. We met a while ago, like last year, but because we're borough girls, right? Like,
Yes.
we're from the city originally, and I love, and I really love hearing like really how you got your start, because you did go through the public school system, and I want people to kind of know, like, really what was your experience first from student through your career, and then we can talk about what it's been like coming into Rochelle and really raising your family here. So tell me a bit about you from, like, let's get started from the beginning.
Thank you, Beth. About me, I was born in the Bronx, South Bronx, and my mom, she did her best raising all five of us by herself. Love her to death. We went to school in the Bronx, and then in middle school, I was fortunate enough to apply and get into one of the elite business schools in Manhattan, Mary Bertram at the time. And I was basically forced to go, and it was scary because being a kid from the Bronx, now I had to travel all the way to Manhattan by myself, and I was this skinny little child, and I just didn't look like the typical 14-year-old. So I went to this high school, which was a big school, which attracted students from all over New York City. So I learned different cultures. I learned about there's more to Chinese food than chicken wings and pork fried rice, because that's what we would eat in our neighborhood Bronx Chinese store. And I frequented Chinatown, Little Italy, and I actually got to see my first play in high school, Cats, because one of our assistant principals, took us. So, graduated from that school. I had a great experience and went on to Hunter CUNY School. I always knew I wanted to be a teacher, but I still was undecided what kind of teacher I wanted to be. But then I went to Hunter, struggled a little with math,
Well, that's a competitive school. I mean, that's an amazing school to go to. I know when I was going to try for high school, I tried for high school performing arts. I tried for a bunch of schools, and I wound up at South Shore in Brooklyn anyway. So
awesome. Large school, like my school at the time. And my school was the same school as Norman Thomas, which was in Midtown, and we had a lot of competitions all the time because we were both one of the best business schools in the city. So Hunter, I decided to major in health and physical education, and I thought, wait, it's about sports, so it couldn't be that hard. Well, I had to take a lot of math and science, and I graduated. It wasn't easy, but I did. First generation high school and college in my family. So I had a lot of pressure on me to do that. I graduated and I landed a job on the Lower East Side. I was a teacher at a small school called Leadership Secondary that attracted English language learners from Santo Domingo. So I was their teacher. They loved me. I taught them PE. I taught them health, and I was there for 2 years, and then I ended up at the performing arts school that you applied to.
Yeah, well.
Fiorello H. LaGuardia. And once in there, I realized, wow, it is hard to get into this school.
Oh my God, it was so hard, yeah.
My sister applied and she didn't get in, and she was an amazing dancer, but I mean, the talent at that school is amazing. So I worked there for 2 years. I had a great experience, but like due to budget cuts at that time in that school, they had to do what's called accessing. So I was last one in, first one out. So I ended up landing a job at my alma mater, Mary Bertram High School. So
and what was that like for you to go back and see?
Oh, it was amazing because most of my teachers were still there. So they were proud of me and they embraced me. And they loved me for about 2 years, because then after 2 years, I became their supervisor. Yeah, I was encouraged to get my master's in school administration, which I did.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up being their supervisor, and that was hard to deal with because now they're seeing this young person coming in, telling them what to do. And one thing we all had in common was kids. We're doing this for our students, and I bring a different lens. You have a great lens and your experience, and we work together. And I managed a department of 12 teachers at the time. And it was a great experience for me, learning how to have a thick skin, learning how to collaborate with people who taught me, who nurtured me. So it was great. So I was the assistant principal of the health and phys ed department. Later, I was promoted to assistant principal of pupil personnel, like our Dr. Mango here in New
Mm-hmm.
Rochelle. I was that person for that school. And I was also the athletic director, which managed
Wow.
21 school teams. And now, you said you went to South Shore, right? So,
Yep, I did. I was on the South Shore tennis team.
well,
I was number 2 in the city in doubles back
that's
in the day.
that's amazing. Congrats. So the school I worked at had the number one girls basketball team for 15 years in a row. And we have 5 state championships. And a lot of those girls ended up going on to play college basketball, and some of them are still overseas. A lot of NCAA Division I scholarships came out of that program, which was amazing. So we won 15 in a row, and now South Shore is on number 5. So they have 5 in a row now. So hey, the
Wow.
school is
Well,
still around.
you told me that. I was so happy to hear that because, South Shore kind of changed when I left. And then I heard that they had closed it and they turned it into like a different kind of school. So it's nice to know that they've got that going on. That's wonderful.
It's still there. Like the Mayor Bloomberg at the time had phased out so many large schools and brought in small schools, but some of the campuses still have their original school. So yes, South Shore is still there.
Mm-hmm.
So I loved it. I was there for 13 years at Mary Bertram, and then throughout working and all those years, I met my husband in grad school,
Mm-hmm.
another Hunter alum. We weren't there at the same time,
Okay.
but he wanted to pursue the degree as well as I did. But we met there, fell in love, and got married. And then in 2011, we bought a house in New Rochelle.
That's and now you have 2 daughters, right?
Yes. Yes.
So now I know you have now is one in middle school and one in high school. Tell me a bit about, your experience within the New Rochelle school system.
So when we moved here, we were still commuting to the city with our girls. One was in a Catholic school on the Upper West Side, and the other one was still with a babysitter. So my daughter Jalen, she started at Jefferson. Once after a year, she started at Jefferson, and she had a great experience there at Jefferson School, and we were fine. We visited the school, we'd attend PTA meetings. It was a great community for us. We live on the south side of New Rochelle. Not a lot of people know about Sycamore Park. That's where we live. Mm-hmm. And my husband, I was still working at Murray Bertram during that whole time, so I was never around because I had a 2-hour commute every day from New Rochelle to downtown Manhattan. So my husband's the one that did everything with our girls. And he said, I think I'm going to apply for this program for Jordan for Barnard. Now, Jordan was 2 when we moved here. So he goes to City Hall, and the woman says, why don't you apply for Webster? Do you have other kids? And she says, yes. So he applied for both programs on his own.
Okay.
And both of our daughters got into both programs.
Barnard and Webster? Or yeah. Wow. Okay.
Individually, right?
Yeah.
So, he just took advantage of a situation. He didn't know. He went to City Hall. Somebody encouraged him, and he did. So we took the leap, and both the following year, Jordan was bused half day to Barnard, which was a great experience for her. She was there for 4 years. She learned Italian. So she's fluent in Italian, English, and Spanish. So it was great for her. And Jalen went to Webster from 3rd grade on to 5th. And then from 5th, she went on to the middle school, and now she's at high school. At the high school in 9th grade, she has an IEP, and she is also an avid swimmer on the girls' swim team, and she's also in PAVE vocal.
Wow. So you are kind of all over you have your hand in each of, I mean, it's nice to know as a parent. I mean, we always talk about that, and I know, like, I'm almost at the end of my journey here. um it's always nice to have the wisdom of what, how you navigated the system and how you're still navigating. So can you tell me about, like, the experiences that you've had, and how your experience has helped for you to be an advocate for your own children, and how that could actually come into play as a school board member?
So when I see like my daughter Jalen, for example, at Webster, it was amazing for her because the class sizes are so small that, I saw some gaps in her learning. And I forgot to mention that my daughter was diagnosed, my oldest was diagnosed with absence seizures at the age of 5. So with that, she had to see a specialist, a neurologist, who said eventually, she might develop some type of learning disability, but it's not something that you and your husband won't be able to manage, and, just look out for it. And so every year I did, and every year I was always worried, and Webster was just amazing. No, she's fine, but she had that one-on-one interaction. The classes were so small. What happened was, once she got to middle school, it was a different story. Now she has 7 teachers, the class sizes are much bigger. So, we had a lot of meetings, and it was frustrating because sometimes the school will say, well, they need rules, they need to have a strict schedule, they should be, get your kids to behave. And in our case, our daughter is, she's a quiet kid, and she's been swimming since 5. Right? So, oh, maybe she shouldn't be swimming. And for us, swimming and the arts is very important, especially when you have a child who may have some learning issues, right? So we were like, that's a non-negotiable. We hired tutors, we had her go to Kumon, somebody would come to the house, but it was still not enough. And then finally navigating the school system, the school, and then going to City Hall to get an evaluation. It took 3 months, Beth.
Wow.
And then they came back, apologized. They said, you know what, this is what she needs. This is what she's going to get. And then she had a successful 7th grade and 8th grade. And, what they did different was support her with co-teaching, which is 2 teachers in a classroom. But what was unfortunate for her was that she does have the ability to take higher level math, but because the schools don't offer co-teaching in middle school, she didn't have access to like a Regents class in 8th grade, like some kids do, or like a living environments Regents class, like some children have access to. She didn't have that access because they don't offer it with the co-teacher. Mm-hmm. So that's a frustration. And me as an educator who works in a district where all kids have access, regardless if they have different learning challenges. Was a little unsettling for me as a taxpayer in such a rich district that this isn't available to all kids, especially my child. So
yeah. So then, when talking about, I mean, because I know one of the major roles of the school board is to be involved in the budget, and really to dive in and to know where this money is being allocated, what the plans are. We're going into a year now where we don't even know if kids are going to be going back in the fall again, and that's really hard for a child like your daughter, or anyone who has has an IEP or special needs. So did you, like, as you're looking through the budget, what is your assessment of what they're allocating towards students who have these kinds of issues for the year ahead?
So I looked at the budget, and that's a great question, because that is one of our responsibilities as a board member, is to have oversight and look at the budget and ensure that the resources are being allocated for students. And I do see resources allocated for special education, and quite frankly, there is resources now. I just noticed for a science teacher. I don't know if that's because of the need right now at the high school that they currently don't offer co-teaching after 9th grade at the high school, right? So as I look at the budget right now, I find that, there was a lot of reframing based on data, right? So the city of New Rochelle was introduced to a lot of data recently, where the community found out that Albert Leonard could potentially be a TSI school, targeted school improvement. That's what it stands for. And people were alarmed by it. This is new to our district, which is great because it's transparency. I can see it as a parent and also as an educator who is involved with state data in the city. So I see that a lot of the budget right now is allocated to support those needs according to the data that was presented to us. So when I look at state data and I see that we have a 27% English language learner graduation rate in 4 years, I noticed that the budget that was presented to us has a lot of funds going towards supporting those learners. So I think it was strategic in terms of instruction and according